And you can go to the, we'll have a link and people can watch it. Can we put this on our YouTube channel, Kara, now that I'm thinking about it? Okay.
Meet Debbie at 1.
Yep.
Unless you
I'll get
want.
this on the YouTube
Well, if you
channel
come,
and then
we'll
we'll also get it
whatever.
linked on
I'm
the
sorry, I missed the
website.
last thing you said.
So
Somebody
if you
needs to
don't show
mute.
up there, we'll
Thank you. Okay,
Sorry.
so go ahead, Kara.
I was just saying really quick, we'll get this put on the website as well. So keep an eye on the website. I've updated most of the links at this point with everything we're going to cover in this presentation. And I'll put a link to the website in the chat. Okay, Jen, go ahead.
All right. So my name is Jen Falk, and I work for the Menominee Tribes Department of Agriculture and Food Systems. And our department is one of many departments and or agencies that help to bring the Tribal Elder Food Box program to life. And believe it or not, it's quite a lot of work. So we're excited to start 2024. We're going to go through some slides. We're going to have at least one guest speaker this morning, and we're going to share links with you, the forms that need to be filled out, what the season might look like, hopefully answer questions, all those sorts of things. So the program will include 15 distributions. So right now we've been doing May through December. Bi-weekly distributions. When we choose food to purchase, we purchase from Indigenous, BIPOC, and local food producers. Those are our priority purchases. The first box of the month is $18.50. Don't let that number scare you. We'll talk about that later. But the first distribution of the month will be $18.50, and the second will be $19.50. Because some tribes only get a box once a month. Then for the shelf stable products, we need 2,330. And again, don't let that number scare you. We'll talk more about it. So in the past few years, this is what the program has been able to do. In 2021, it was a pilot project. It was a collaboration between Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin and Menominee, Oneida, and Red Cliff. And we had 7 Indigenous producers. We put out about 11,000 boxes. In 2022, we more than doubled those number of boxes. And then we started distributing to all 11 recognized tribes in Wisconsin. There are 11 federally recognized tribes in Wisconsin. We more than doubled our number of Indigenous producers. And then last year, we really started kicking into gear, put out 28,000 boxes, all 11 tribes, recognized tribes in Wisconsin, plus 2 sites in Milwaukee, an Indian urban clinic and an Indian urban resource center, and increased our Indigenous producers to 23. So this is what we hope to do in 2024. We're going to have 12 tribes. Who's the 12th tribe, Kara? I'm not sure.
We're hoping to get boxes to Lac Vieux des Aires.
Lac Vieux des Aires in Michigan. So that'll be exciting. And we hope to have 30 plus Indigenous producers. So that's what it's looked like in the past and what we are anticipating for 2024.
All right, do you want me to pop in, Jen?
Sure.
Okay. Hi everyone. So my name's Caroline Black. I'm the Procurement and Programs Manager at Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin. We've been partnering on this project for the last couple of years, and we serve as the purchasing and kind of aggregation site, and also do the repack of the boxes. So this is the calendar. Again, the link here all of this information is on the website that I linked in the chat, and I'll put it in the chat again at the end of the call once everyone's been on. But essentially, there's a producer tab on the website that has like becoming a producer is the name of the page. And at the bottom is all of the links to all of these things, including the calendar. So, but this is the 15 distributions Jen was talking about. So we'll be starting mid to beginning of May and going through December. And it works out to roughly be every other week. There's, I think, 1 week where it skips 2 weeks and then gets back on track just due to holidays and other things. So here's where we're getting into the meat and bones of it. So what's actually inside a tribal elder food box? So the foods we're looking for, like Jen mentioned, we're prioritizing purchasing from Indigenous and BIPOC Wisconsin local producers. And each box typically has 2 to 3 proteins, 6 to 8 produce items, depending on the season and what time of year we're at, and then 1 to 2 shelf-stable items. I know Jen mentioned kind of like the units that we're looking for. So there's 1850 units and 1950 units, and that's just how many boxes we're packing. So when we're thinking about each of these items, like beef, bison, pork, we're thinking typically a protein is in a 1 pound unit. Dry beans, 1 pound bag. Eggs, we've typically done like a half dozen. And then for produce, we'll kind of get into more of what those packs look like, but we're thinking per box, so per family that's receiving a box. And then the shelf stables are kind of around the same thing where we go between a half pound, a pound, or pint or half pint, depending on the product. And we'll get into a little bit of that more later. Here is just kind of to visualize, we're working with a lot of different producers from all over the Great Lakes region, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, with priority to Indigenous producers, and then just keeping it as local as we can. And these are kind of our aggregation sites and distribution sites, and where product will be pulled into and then sent out again. And so I guess I'll talk about that now too. So typically when we're looking at one of these, let me go back real quick. When we're looking at one of these distribution weeks, what's circled here is the dates that we would need your foods delivered to our aggregation sites. So typically on a Monday and Tuesday of a distribution week is when product is getting delivered to one of our 2 distributions, aggregation sites, which is either the Wisconsin Food Hub Cooperative located in Wapaka, and their address is right here on the bottom. Or we have our Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin location in Appleton, and this one will be probably prioritized on Tuesdays. Then just for your information, typically on a distribution week, we are repacking the boxes on Wednesdays, and then boxes are getting distributed to tribal distribution sites on the 16th or on the Thursday and Friday of the distribution week. So we cannot accept product after Tuesday afternoon. That's when we have to have everything in-house because we're repacking the boxes on the Wednesday to go out to sites on the Thursday and Friday. So all foods need to be to us by Monday or Tuesday. Depending on what your food is, if it's a shelf stable or a protein, we can take it the week before. It would just be a conversation of trying to work out those logistics. And we can support with picking up. Our partners at Wisconsin Food Hub have a lot of trucks, and they have distribution routes all over the state all the time. So if you do need assistance getting your product picked up, if you don't have a reefer van or a freezer truck, we can definitely help you out there. Please just let us know. We can't have anything transported in pickup trucks. It has to be temp regulated, and we'll get into that a little bit later too. So again, here's kind of where I believe, yeah, this is our Wapaka and then our Appleton locations where we can take product in. So keeping on with the meat and bones here, the proteins that we've included have kind of been a wide range. So we can take kind of a lot of different beef products, ground beef, beef tips. That's typically where we've landed just due to pricing. We haven't done like roasts and stuff. But depending on price, we could discuss it. Bison products, fish, pork, elk. We are nervous. We've shied away in the past with CWD concerns, but depending on the testing going on, we can talk about that. Chicken, we prefer quartered or halved, just due again to pricing, because we're doing per box, and also we're distributing to elders, and not a lot of elders can take a whole chicken at one time and cook that. So just kind of framing your mind to think about where our audience is. Venison, and then eggs, we've typically done a half dozen. Dried beans, we're very excited about if you can do dry beans. Half pound, 1 pound per box. Last year, I think we did 1 pound bags. So if you have questions about any of that, please let me know. Otherwise, this is kind of what we've done in the past. For produce, we've typically looked at the unit sizes that I included here. So again, when we're thinking about 1950 units that need to go out, again, that's 1950 boxes. So breaking that down even further, 1 unit for 1 box, it might be a 3 pound bag for onions, or 2 large onions, or 1 large onion, depending on what our producers can do and what the product looks like per box. So I know seems really scary, and this is what Jen was saying earlier. Please don't be intimidated by this. We have a lot of producers even on this call who all grow tomatoes. So if we can get a couple of us together to grow tomatoes, we can get enough units together. So if you can at least grow, typically our benchmark's around 500, just because there's a lot of different products going in the boxes and we're a little bit short on staff. It's mostly me and a new hire that we just brought on. But if you can grow at least 500 winter squash, we can find more and fill in. So just let us know what the max is that you think you could grow. And we'll have an availability sheet that I'll have you fill out. And that will kind of walk you through. I'll open it up later, but it will show you like unit sizes, how many units you can include, how many times. So just for 1 box distribution or for multiple, like we know zucchini will keep growing. So you might want to do multiple zucchini orders or cucumbers. And then what time of year you think you might have that product ready, so we can start plugging you into distributions. I know I'm covering a lot. Does anyone have questions right now? Otherwise, I'll keep going and we can do more questions at the end.
Carol, we do have one question about, a couple questions. Where can they find the size chart, and will this be recorded and put on the website? So all the information that we are covering, including the recording of this webinar, will be on the website. Hopefully by the end of today, I would think that would be possible. So that's the answer to that.
Yes, and if you look at the website right now, the links to the producer MOU, the availability form that I was just mentioning, that Excel sheet, and the kind of application, all of that is already linked on the website on the becoming a producer page. And then, yes, we will link this presentation as well as the recording that we're for this meeting right now online too. And again, all of these unit sizes that I have right here are just things we've done in the past. If you have a new product or a different product or a different recommendation, or you're not seeing something on here that you'd want to grow, I didn't include everything. So just reach out to us, put it on the availability form, and we can talk. Philberto, I see your question. Yes, we've done asparagus. Yes, we love asparagus, usually in May, June. So let's talk. Ethan, do you want to pop in with your question? I want to make sure I answer it right. Okay, we'll go back to that. So then moving on to shelf staples. Shelf stables, we again usually do 1 to 2 shelf stable per box. So some examples, and again, this is not all inclusive. We've done dried teas, lots of other things as well, but some of our things we've done in the past are here. So for wild rice, we're looking for hand harvested. We've done cultivated. If you have questions or any other suggestions, we are very much looking for dry hominy, probably in 1/2 pound or 1 pound quantities. So if you have the ability to help with an order or do a full order, please let us know. Jen, do you want to add anything else here?
Yeah, we might want to clarify, are we looking for dehydrated corn? Or are we looking for fresh, ready to eat corn?
Hmm.
I would think we're looking for dehydrated.
I would think so too.
Yep. So the corn mush flour, one of the reasons that that is in the box is because that's easier to process than the dehy. So, but if anyone wants to get into dehy corn, that would be amazing.
I have a question about the dehy corn, Jen. I do my own small batch hominy, but like I don't have the ability to scale up unless I were to partner with someone. I'm just putting that out there. If somebody does have a larger scale processing space, I'm more than happy to collaborate.
All right, anyone wants to do a dehy, get in touch with Jessica, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, Jessica, I'll just quick add on that. That has been a big topic of discussion, and I know one of our tribes is working on a new facility, but yeah, it's just pretty labor intensive, not just cooking it and getting it to that point, but then it's, drying it down, of course, is it's a big step.
So there's a lot of questions popping up in the chat, and don't worry if we're not addressing them, we'll address them at the end. We'll go through the whole list.
Okay, great. I'm gonna keep flying here. Okay, so again, all of this will be online, so please don't fret, but this is just kind of our one slider, everything you need on one page to become one of our producers. We'd need you to fill out a producer MOU. Again, it will be online. It's goes over basic food safety, which we'll go over in a future slide here. And then just kind of the basic understanding of what I just explained, kind of how the aggregation works, what days you need to have things in to us by, the kind of units that we're looking for, the temps of things. So again, if you have frozen meat that you're selling into the program, you need to have a refrigerated van or a frozen truck. If you don't, let us know. We can help you get it picked up. But your product will be temped as it comes in. If it's not the right temp, it could be rejected. That kind of information's in there. We do have more detailed like food safety sheets as well. So just take a look at that and make sure you sign and return that to myself. My email is also on the website. I can also put it in the chat. Then there's a producer recruitment form. Super basic form, just so we get a little bit more information about you and your business. And then a seasonal availability form. It's here, I'm actually going to open it up so we can look at it. So when you see this, you won't be able to edit it. So what I'll need you to do is file and download this to an Excel, and then you can fill it out as an Excel form and send it back to me. You'll be filling out this second sheet. And this is just kind of a sample of how I'm looking for this to be filled out. So your information, what product you're looking to sell, what kind of units per box you're looking for. So if it's 1 onion per box or a 3-pound bag, the pounds per the unit, and then how many, when you're packing it, how many are in a case, so that when we're receiving the product, what are we looking for? So typically, as for potatoes, if you're packing 3-pound potato bags, there's going to be 16 of those 3-pound bags in a case that you're shipping to us. If you have any questions as you're filling this kind of stuff out, please let me know. We can help. Sean also will be going over some of this later, so hopefully that will clear up some questions as well. Then there's pounds per case, and this is again kind of going off of this units per case, and then what your price is. So this is another thing I wanted to talk about. This year we're looking for all pricing to be by the pound. So I know most of us are doing that already, but if you've been with the program before and you've sold, I think like tea is an example of one that we've done by the tea bag is usually how the pricing has gone in the past. We're going to need to work together to figure out what a price is per pound so we can have uniform pricing by the pound. And this is really good training for wholesale, other markets, needing to know how to price by the pound. So this is again something Sean's going to be covering as a guest speaker in just a couple minutes when I shut up. So that will help, and then reach out if you have questions. And then how many times do you think you could have this product for us for the boxes? If it's once, if it's twice, if it's monthly, whatever it might be. And then what kind of gauge so we know when to plug you into the calendar. So let me try to get back to my, how do I move this bar? Here we go. Okay. So that's the availability form, and all that will be on the website. Okay, Jen, passing it back to you.
Oops, sorry. As we've already discussed, it's May through December. Producers and vendors will initiate their price for wholesale transactions. And like Kara just said, we have to move to by pound this year. And that's kind of a non-negotiable. So we'll have to get ready for that. And if you need help, like Sean's gonna speak to that in a bit, but if you need further help, just let us know. Okay, the food safety. There is a food safety element in the MOU that you'll sign, and Kara went over most of that already. We don't have any formal certs or requirements. Just the minimal state and local requirements for the sale of fresh products. You're required to operate with all food safety handling standards applicable to your farm. Meat, poultry, and fish must be frozen, as Kara said. Product can get rejected if it doesn't show up in a safe manner. There are food safety trainings. WCAC, GLFWIC, and the LCO are 3 places that you can get training, and I'll tell you what those things are. The Wisconsin Tribal Conservation Advisory Council has food safety trainings, sometimes a couple times a year. The Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission also does some food safety training and food code training. And the LCO, Lacoudere University also has some food safety training. If you need that, let us know. Dan, can you say something about the crop insurance? I'm not sure I can speak to that.
Yeah, so crop insurance is kind of complicated, as is noted on here. We did do a training previously that gives a bit more of a background. There's, more of a comprehensive farm crop insurance, and that's, a little bit, a lot of records involved in that. I think that's one of the big things with crop insurance is record keeping is key. But one of the ones that I'd really encourage people to look at is the USDA Farm Service Agency has something called the NAP crop insurance. And what's nice is for socially disadvantaged producers, there's a premium fee waiver. So there's no cost to participate. I can't exactly say of whether it's worth it or not. I did myself as an independent producer sign up for it last year and had worked with them of getting indigenous corn as one of the covered products within there. And with the D3 drought last year, I did file a claim. I haven't gotten anything back yet on it, but I would say that's definitely one to look at if you're doing any type of specialty crops, vegetables, anything that can't be covered easily with other crop insurance, that NAP does apply. the most important thing I would say is to know that the sign up deadline for any spring planted crops is March 15th. And you just really need to go into your local farm service agency office, work with them. And if anyone wants to talk more, I'm happy to give more information on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, we're gonna pass it to Sean. I want to make sure Sean has lots of time. And then I'll be passing it back to Dan.
We'll be short and sweet. Hi, everybody. I'm Sean Bartholomew with Chippewa Valley Produce. We're located over on the western side of the state, Elk Mound, small farm, and then we mainly do aggregation. We work with other growers to build wholesale capacity. A lot of the growers we work with are young, and they sell at the farmers market. So it's going from that retail market into transitioning to wholesale. So it does get tricky. Can someone go to the next slide, please? So in wholesale, markets set our wholesale prices. There's a lot of produce growers in this state, roughly 6,500 that we know of. Not all of them sell into wholesale, but quite a few of them do. And what I find is across the board, the people I work with, the prices are generally pretty close to each other. They don't vary too much. And a lot of times those prices are set by the demand of the product, how long you store the product. For example, we still sell carrots right now. We're not selling carrots right now the same price we are in the summer, because we have to pay for that storage and that handling through the fall and the winter. And we have coolers, but I guess in this time of year, we call it, well, normally this time of year when it's in the teens, we have heaters in those coolers, and that costs money. So when you're looking at wholesale, you need to keep those things in mind. Can someone click the link, please? Oh, it doesn't let you have access. Figured that. Can I just share my screen?
Yeah, here, let me unshare. Uh-oh. Are you able to share, Sean?
No, I'm not.
Jen, can you fix his permissions?
I'm not a host. I can probably give Jen permission for this slide too. Here, I just sent you permission to share, Jen. So if you could just share that too.
Okay, we've exceeded my technological capacities.
Well, on
Just
that
make him a
sheet,
make him a co-host might be easiest.
I did that.
oh, let's see if I can share now. There we go. Now it lets me.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, so what we're looking at here is our wholesale prices. That's for this time of year. So we don't have it broken down by the pound on here because we sell things by the case. So when you look at red potatoes, it's 16 3-pound bags per case, and that's $66 per case. So if we want to figure out what that is per pound, that's just 16 times 3, and you get 48 pounds. So that's $1.37.5 per pound. That's where we at for not conventional, but not organic. Our prices are the middle of the road. We try not to work with anyone who sprays herbicides and pesticides. All our produce, all the people that we work with are sustainable growers. Very little herbicide or no herbicides and very little pesticides. Sometimes they have to come through and use an organic pesticide, but for the most part, most growers don't use anything. So as you can see, we don't really differentiate between red potatoes, russets, yellow potatoes, golden potatoes. For us, they're potatoes. They're all the same amount of work. And that's another thing you need to take into consideration. It's how much work is something and how often do you get a harvest off it? Like acorn squash we still have right now. It's really not that much work to it. You pick it, you get one crop off of it. But when you're talking things like zucchini or cucumbers, where you can get multiple harvests off a plant, that's when you see that price per dollar going down a little bit. Strawberries, where you get one harvest, really. I mean, you might get a couple, but the season's so short, and you have such a short timeline for holding those things. You know, items like that are more per pound. And when you're looking at per pound for strawberries, it's super easy. A pound is 1 quart. So you know that a quart is a pound. Some of the areas where you might fall with a little bit more trouble, for example, blueberries. A pint of blueberries is roughly 12 ounces, which is 3/4 of a pound. So when you break it down, if you're selling them for $4 a pint, that's about 33 cents an ounce. So when you want to see what you're at for a pound, it's at $4 a pint, you're at $5.28 a pound. So blueberries are tricky. But when you're looking at zucchini, it's 20 pounds per half bushel case. And almost every half bushel you make, because they come in a standard box, is going to equal that 20 pounds. Questions about that? One of our highest priced items is carrots. There's so much work. That's something you also need to take into consideration when you're growing things. How much work is it? Carrots for us, that's probably the most expensive item. They're almost $2 a pound that we sell them at wholesale. Mushrooms, super expensive when you look at per pound, especially like for this program when they want them packed into individual cases. We try to do like 1/4 of a pound per package because a pound of mushrooms is a lot of mushrooms. But like the store, when you go to the store and you see those little containers of mushrooms, that's about 1/4 of a pound. So then we can get it down to like $4 or something around there, maybe $3.50. Lettuce, like head lettuce, that's going to be another tricky one because sometimes you have bigger heads of lettuce, sometimes you have smaller. But if you're packing 24 heads of lettuce into a case, you're going to get pretty consistent with how much each case weighs. They're going to be roughly between 18 to 22 pounds. So, I don't know what just happened there, but that's my dog. All right, someone want to pull those slides back up?
Yeah, I
Please.
can share again.
Does anyone have any questions about pricing? So just
There
recapping
are
a little.
not any questions in the chat about pricing.
Perfect. So just reiterating the retail versus wholesale. When you're looking at wholesale, you want to get about 25% of it to one buyer. You don't really want to go more than that. In this case, with the Tribal Elderly Box Program, where it's a little more certain they're going to be purchasing, it's probably a little safer to go higher. But for us, that's kind of where we want to stay. Retail, you're selling to a lot of different people on a smaller scale. That's why the wholesale prices are generally smaller than a retail price because they're buying in quantity. So you're putting less work into that one sale versus many small sales. And there's different packaging. Retail, you have many different packages for small sales, where wholesale, you're putting things in bulk boxes. Wholesale is pretty standard for how products are packed. And whereas retail, it's pretty much open to you. Like, that's our farmer's market table in that picture. We choose how we put it on there. We do what we want. Nobody's telling us how to pack things. So it's a bit different. Next slide, please. So when you're looking at wholesale packaging, you always want to make sure you have a clean box. Brand new boxes are the best. But if you have to use a used box, you're going to want to have a plastic liner in there that's clean. But you also have to think, like, do tomatoes handle well with a plastic liner? Yeah, no, they don't. Does lettuce pretty much need a plastic liner regardless of what box it's in if it was washed? Yes, because you're going to have water dripping out. So those are some things you want to take into consideration. So the standard 1 1/9 bushel box, that's what we pack items like bell peppers. It's 20 pounds per box. If you pack a 1 1/9 bushel box of peppers, like bell peppers, you're going to have 20 pounds. Like your winter squash, it's going to be about 40 pounds. Broccoli, you're looking at about 18 pounds. Kale and Swiss chard, if you bunch them, 24 bunches per box, you're probably getting about 10 to 12 pounds per box. But you're going to be pretty consistent with what you're doing on your farm. The half bushel boxes, that's where you put your zucchini, your cucumbers, your shallots, your Brussels sprouts. Those are the kind of items that we put into those. For onions, potatoes, cabbage, you can use bags. Not sure if Feeding America likes bags, but they're super cost effective and it keeps our price down on our end. I know cabbage has its own special box too. They're 1 5/9 box, and those are 50-pound boxes of cabbage. Those do a lot better than bags because the outside edges of cabbage will get bruised in those bags and it'll look pretty rough versus one of the wax boxes. And why we do this is because it's easy for the person receiving those products, and it's easy for transportation, and it's consistent across the board. When you have to drive something 300 miles or 250 miles, you really want it to be uniform on a pallet. So if you're making multiple stops, you don't have stuff getting moved around, and it really just stays in its place. And we also do, I think for this program last year, we did all the winter squash in 18 bushel bins, which is 750 pounds or right about there, 700 pounds. And then like your tomatoes, they're coming in if you have heirloom tomatoes, you definitely want to do a 10-pound box that's designed for those heirlooms. And then your round slicing tomatoes, you can double stack those in a 20-pound box. And then on this picture here, that's how we do our Roma tomatoes. Roma tomatoes are generally firmer, so they're gonna hold through transportation better versus an heirloom or a round beefsteak tomato. So we do 25-pound boxes of Roma tomatoes. And there's also, I want to say this is a half bushel box, but they also make special boxes for tomatoes. Next slide, please.
Hey, Sean, I want to jump
Yeah.
in just for a second.
Feel free.
There's a few questions in here and I'm gonna actually have to throw to Kara, I think. Has there been talk about setting wholesale prices for the tribal box program rather than each producer giving individual prices?
No.
Okay. What about prioritizing non-plastic packaging, recyclable packaging, or wax paper?
Um, where, sorry, can you read that question again?
I think it's a direct message, but I'm asking the
Oh,
group.
okay.
What about prioritizing non-plastic packaging and recyclable packaging, which is an issue we've talked through many times.
I mean,
Some,
I
no, take it, Sean.
yeah. So a lot of the reasons why we have these wax boxes is to get things from point A to point B. For example, if you put broccoli in and you have to wash broccoli, you have to cool it in the field. If you have that wet and you pack it into a cardboard box, by the time it gets in anywhere, it's going to fall apart. It's going to tip over. And once that tips over onto the ground, you can't sell that product. So then you're actually wasting more in the end versus just using that wax box. But that's why I was talking about a clean liner. So a lot of times we do get our boxes back from customers. And that's where we do use that plastic liner. And there are biodegradable plastic liners you can buy to be or not necessarily cost effective, but more sustainable. And that's what I would encourage the most, because if you lose the product, there is no sustainability there. But if you can reuse a box, I mean, sometimes we can reuse these wax boxes 3-4 times if they're handled carefully and the people opening don't just rip them open. If you open them as you close them, as they're designed, instead of ripping the box, you'll be able to
Okay.
get multiple uses out of one box.
One more
Tomatoes, though,
question.
I wouldn't reuse a box, and those are cardboard, so they can be recycled.
One more question on this slide. Are Gaylords okay for larger items like melons and squash?
The washable ones, I would prefer to use a washable cardboard box. But the 18 bushel bins, those are cardboard boxes. They're also recyclable. But we do have on our farm, we harvest into plastic bins. And some of our customers do use reusable, or like they'll take our totes and send them back to us, and then we wash them, plastic totes. I'm not sure if Feeding America, I'll let you all speak on that, but we do that with our customers.
Yeah, so those like watermelon bins, the big cardboard Gaylord size bins are, yes, definitely preferred for melons. And I think winter squash, we've done those. Even like Sean said, if you were doing like 16 3-pound potatoes and then packing those in like the cardboard bags and then putting those in the Gaylord size like watermelon totes, like that's totally fine. So we're not doing boxes for those. And also I think back to the reusing boxes, a lot of our producers, especially producers who are delivering to us, we can definitely break down your boxes, and we've saved them by producer with tags. And then if you're able to pick them back up, either from us or from the food hub, we can get your boxes back to you. The logistics are a little bit harder for our producers who are getting their product picked up, because then we just have to figure out if there's a backhaul or some other way to get them back to you. It's a little bit more taxing on our end. So I'm not going to make any promises, but for our producers that are dropping off to us or are able to pick their boxes back up, we can definitely save those for you. And we have done that for many producers in the past. So that is also an option so I know these boxes are expensive.
All right, let's keep going.
Yeah, just like Kara said, these boxes are insanely expensive. So when you're looking at purchasing, hey, next slide, please. And then when you're looking at purchasing boxes, try to buy in bulk. And if you can work together with other people, that's going to be your best way to buy boxes, because shipping to one location is going to be more cost effective than two. But just to reiterate, food safety here, because that's where my world normally is. Use clean plastic crates for harvest, then wash between use. If you keep the product clean when you harvest it, it's going to be easier to pack. And if you can wash produce such as potatoes, tomatoes, your salad greens, squash, cucumbers, carrots, radishes, beets, turnips, your celeries, those things that are really low to the ground. For one, that's probably going to increase shelf life with all those items, and you're not going to have such a mess with dirt and cross contamination. If you have used boxes or bins, use a clean liner. Super simple. And when you store the boxes, I know on my farm, we live out in the country and it's dirty. My house, you walk in from outside, you're carrying dirt, sand everywhere. Our pack shed, we're in and out of it 20 times a day. Even when it's just me out there doing all the work, I come in, I wash my hands, I get a drink, I go back out. There's dirt, there's dust. The wind blows, there's more dust. Keep boxes on a pallet, keep them covered. Whether it's a plastic garbage bag that you open up and put over the top of it, whether you go to Menards or Home Depot or Ace Hardware and get a roll of plastic and just cut a sheet big enough to put over that to keep it from getting all that dust, it's going to help the product look better and just keep those boxes clean. And then if you can, store things in a temperature monitored area, such as a walk-in cooler. Like broccoli, it's probably the biggest one. If you don't put that in a cooler and get it cooled right away, by the time it gets to the end user, it's not going to look very pretty. Same with salad greens. Next slide, please. Labeling, keep it simple. This is an example of a label. It doesn't need to be much, but your farm name, your address, the date it was packed, harvested, what is in the box, and then the weight. When whoever's receiving it, if you have a label, it's going to help them when they're going to pack these boxes. And then when they receive it, they're also going to verify that this is actually what's on this pallet. And if you don't have this label, how do you verify that? It makes things very difficult, and that could affect getting paid, right? Like, you want to make sure you're clear and open with what's in there. So then it matches your invoice gets you paid. Next slide, please. Where to buy packaging. These are the 4 places I've bought packaging. Monty Packaging, if I'm buying in bulk, they ship out of Michigan. So it's pretty easy to get that within a day or two. Glacier Valley Packaging, that is in Wisconsin. They're located in Baraboo. When I look for blueberry containers, strawberries, or some of those different types of packaging, that's where I go. I know you can also go to the Tri-County Produce Auction, which is in Dalton by the Wisconsin Dells. And the last place I would ever buy a box is Uline. They're the most expensive, but I put that on there for one reason, because if I run out of boxes today and I need them tomorrow, they will get me boxes tomorrow. So in a pinch, I have used Uline boxes for the 1 1/9 bushel or the half bushel wax boxes. It's not preferred, it's more expensive, but to get the product out of the door, that's what I've done. But Glacier Valley's where I get most of my packaging. And I usually just pick it up, and we try to pick up for a month or more at a time. So it's just more cost effective. I believe that's it for me.
Thank you, Sean. Really quickly before we stop talking about the food, I just wanted to again mention that we're doing everything priced by the pound. And I understand that a lot of us won't be able to weigh full pallets on farm. If you're able to weigh by the case, and then again, putting that on the label on your case, we can figure out the total that way for your invoice and your BOL. Otherwise, the Wisconsin Food Hub and Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin have ways to weigh your pallet. So if you don't provide that information for us, we will be weighing it and we'll go off of the weight that we receive it at. And then that's how we'll pay. So we can definitely talk on a one-on-one basis if that applies to you, but just wanted to mention that while we're all here. Okay, I'm going to pass it to Dan.
Hey, Jen, could you make me a co-host real quick? So I'm going to talk today just really very briefly. I know we don't have a lot of time for the session here, but I'm going to just talk um really briefly on a grant that is open, a grant that's open right now, and that is the USDA Value Added Producer Grant. And I think that the the thing really to know on this and why we're sharing it, it's open now. The deadline is April. This is kind of complicated. The deadline is April 11th if you're applying online. It's April 16th if you're mailing it in. I don't know why they have the two different deadlines, but you get a little bit more time if you mail it. If you mail it in. But this grant, to me, I think that this is one of the best ones. If you really are trying to do a big value added product, you could get up to $75,000 for a planning grant. You could get up to $250,000 for an implementation, a working capital grant. The big challenge on this one is that there's a one-to-one match. And that is a major barrier. In the past, we've found some matching funds, something looking at for the future. But you can use product as a match if you're doing that implementation one. But really, what I think is good on this is it's really the application itself. It's fairly long, but the process of going through it helps to really develop a more comprehensive business plan. And today we're not talking about other opportunities that are out there, but I will mention that we have other efforts that are coming together to support business development, and this value-added producer grant here is a great opportunity. Last thing I'll say on it is we are working to pull together more detailed training. And so if you want to learn, the basics on it, or maybe you want to explore doing an application, we're going to have a couple of different options to get just the very basics in more detail, but then pulling people together and you want to go through and go through the application and even just talk concepts, we will have more of that support. And then the one other note here too is RFSI. That stands for the Resilient Food System Infrastructure Program. This is a $400 million dollars that USDA split among states. Wisconsin happens to have the second largest allocation of RFSI funding at $27 million. And those applications are due on March 6th. So I think kind of had the question in there, do we have any producers that are looking to apply, because producers are eligible, and we've been working with our tribes jointly. And last one other thing I'll just mention too is I think that packaging, ordering boxes, ordering supplies. I know last year that Wisconsin Food Hub Co-op, that you were able to buy boxes from them, so they were able to kind of buy at a bigger scale. Tribal Elder Food Box started in 2021. 3 tribes expanded in the second year to all 11 tribes. The amount of growth, the speed of growth has been pretty rapid. And I would just put out to our producers or prospective producers, if there's areas where you need help or you have ideas, I mean, it'd be great if we had a whole rotating stock of plastic totes. We can't promise anything, but we do definitely want to hear what needs people have, what ideas there are, and there will be more resources out there for these type of ideas. So just wanted to mention that. And again, if people have questions on the VAPG, we could take a little bit now, but we'll have more detailed training opportunities on that.
Great. There are a few questions. Thanks, Dan. There's a few questions in the chat that we haven't covered. We'll find them again. There's a question. I assume that you prefer indigenous crops like Hopi, Hubbard squash, or Oneida white corn. Yes and no. Our priority is to buy food from indigenous producers. There are certainly indigenous crops that we are after. So if you're going sweet corn or white corn, we're interested. The asparagus question was answered. Ethan has a question. Production is not a problem, but getting the produce picked is a problem. Does anyone have ideas for Ethan?
Ethan, maybe we could talk more. Maybe we could organize trying to get a little work party or something up there, have a workshop on grown berries. And yeah, I think, that's where I had said if people have ideas, needs, share them and we can figure out how to get the resources. I was kind of talking more like on infrastructure supplies, but that labor and produce production, I grow a little bit and that's the toughest thing is that, yeah, there's some machines out there, but strawberries, you have to pretty much pick those by hand.
Okay, then
Yeah.
there's a question. Oh,
Well, I was just gonna say, okay, yeah. I mean, that's just what I was trying to reach out is, anybody had any ideas as far as, crew or crew high school kids or something to get, some strawberries picked or some blueberries picked, that kind of thing. So that's all. Yeah, I was just kind of throwing it out there.
I think we should talk more. Maybe we could get some grad students. We got a crew of a cohort of indigenous grad students in agroecology that is going to be starting this year. So maybe we could have a little workshop field trip up and help. But let's talk more.
okay, then there's a question about corn. Do we prefer grain or masa? I think we're open to many things, all things corn. Personally, I'm not too sure how masa would go over, but we can talk about all kinds of products. Oneida has a food safety training. They have a food safety training, but it's more around retail and food prep, not necessarily around wholesale produce safety. Are the trainings that I mentioned available to everyone? No, they're not. But there are certainly other trainings, and if we can help you find those, the extension is a great place to start. And I think somebody's recommending Jordan seeds for wax boxes. Producers of other state that Wisconsin can be included in the grant. I think Roberto is asking if we buy product from other states. Yes. We have bought product from Michigan tribes and Minnesota tribes. I think that's all the questions. Unless anyone has anything else.
I saw a question from Hinu about, I think it was directed at Sean.
Oops, sorry.
She's asking, she said carrots are his most costly item, but what are the most and least lucrative items?
Probably winter squash, honestly. Like, it takes up a ton of space for us. It's in storage, it takes up a lot of space. It's the heaviest to move around. And so many people grow winter squash that's probably where we are the least lucrative. That's probably the most expensive. Because on our trucks, you're looking at an 8,000 pound or a 10,000 pound max for capacity. So when you get a 750 pound bin of a winter squash that's worth $300, we barely make enough fuel to drive it to where it needs to go.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions?
It looks like a question just came through. This might be for Gary. I might just let Gary connect with this producer asking about utilizing freezer space.
Oh,
here.
yeah, can Menominee producers use the freezers at food distribution or at the old rec for proteins? Yeah, send Gary or myself an email and we can chat about that. So I guess what I really want to emphasize here is that the program is really designed to support Indigenous and local producers, and we have the capacity and some funding to help all of you get to where you need to be to sell to the box. So whether that means two beef producers are combining to do one distribution, or you need some equipment, we have some grant dollars available for that. So whatever it is that you're wondering or looking for, or let us know, and we will do our darndest to help you. So this has been recorded. The website has all the forms you need. There'll be a YouTube. This recording will be on YouTube, as well as our brand new video that we can put out as of right now today. So thank you, everyone. One last call for questions. Okay.
Stacy just put something in the chat. Stacy, you're with Red Door Family Farm. Your farm's organic, correct?
Yay, Red Door.
Yes, we're organic. My question was just like, one of the things that I think is being a pinch point is maybe being able to grow all the starts. We're not an Indigenous farm, but I was wondering if it would be something that we could be helpful producing starts for people who don't have the greenhouse space. And if the tribal elder could purchase the starts for then other people to grow the produce.
That's
Definitely, probably, yeah,
very
something.
interesting.
Can you put your email in the chat, Stacy?
And Stacy, we've had a little bit of discussion on that, of even networking, and because I know some of our tribes do very similar things of distribution out for community members, and yeah, so there's been some discussion on various concepts and approaches on that in the past. Be great to talk more.
There's another question. Any items that you really can't find but would like? Berries are at the top of that list. Indigenous folks growing produce would probably be number 2 on the list. And DHI Indigenous corn would probably be number 3. Anything else, Kara, that you can think of?
Not off the top of my head.
Berries, produce, and corn.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thanks, Stacy. All right, anything else? Okay, I'm gonna stop recording, everyone.